Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of the Free Exchange of Ideas. I'm going to change the format up a little bit and change the days because I'm finding it difficult to do 5 days a week. And I realize that there's stuff that you guys want to see or talk about, but this is where we're at right now. So what I'm going to do is Monday and Wednesday, I'm going to try and do something newsworthy, or not newsworthy, but of note in the news that I find interesting. You may not, but that's where it's at. On Friday, I'm going to do a story time kind of thing. Today is actually going to be a personal story, but and it's not really a funny story so much as it is has funny aspects to the story. So that's what I'm going to try and do for the foreseeable future. And I'm hoping very much that I can accomplish that task. Monday and Friday are usually very easy days for me here where I'm at. We don't get much traffic. Wednesdays can be a lot more traffic driven, but I think I can still get this accomplished in that manner because I could do it first thing in the morning if I had to. So, with that being said, let's get into story time. This happened in 1981. In February 1981, so just about a month and 41 years ago. It was my 19th birthday, actually the day before my 19th birthday. I went down to Corona to be with friends and have a good time for my birthday. Had a lot of friends I hadn't seen in a while, and girl I liked a lot at the time. So and I stayed sober for the whole time because I knew I had to drive home by myself. So had a good time, left about 11:30 in the evening, was heading home. My oil light flashed on in my car, and then all of a sudden there's a lot of smoke coming out of the hood. So I pull off the freeway at what used to be Weir Canyon. It was a state park. And pull into their parking lot and park my car, go to the payphone, which you can't find there any longer, and called my mom because I knew where she was working. I could call there. Told her what had happened, and she said she wasn't going to be able to leave there till 2:30 or 3. So I said, that's fine. I'll just walk back up the freeway to the Denny's to get something to eat, and then I'll come back and nod in the wagon. It's in the parking lot. So hang up with her, go across the underpass, back up onto the freeway, going back the way I'd come. Get about, I don't know, maybe a quarter mile. The road is bending quite widely, so I can't really see anything beyond the hill that's right next to me. And I think I'm going the wrong way. So there's no traffic. I could see lights for days. So I literally ran across 8 lanes of traffic to start back the other way. Now I'm going back toward Weir Canyon Park. 18, just turning 19, did not know navigation to save my life. So I'm going to hang this up. So heading back, I get just beyond the on-ramp from the park as a Toyota or Datsun goes screaming past me with the hood up against the windshield. There's a girl hanging out the passenger window trying to guide the driver over because the driver can't see beyond the hood, obviously. So I see him, and I walk toward the car, and they get out of the car and say, hey, listen, my car just broke down. That's why I'm walking on the freeway. I'm not any weird dude or anything. Is there anything I can do to help? And they said, well, we're not sure what happened. The hood just flew up. So I walk up to the car, and I look, and sure enough, the hood has flown up, and because it's a Datsun or a Toyota, we're talking old school, like 70s. The back girders had bent when it hit the windshield. And so there was no way to really close the hood without some chain or rope, and they didn't have either. And of course, my pockets were empty as far as that was concerned. So I said, do you have any tools? Maybe we can adjust and get it down to get you back to the gas station. And see, at that time, I should have known I was going the wrong way because the gas station that they came from, which was a 76 station, was right next to the Denny's. And there wasn't anything between the Denny's and Corona or the Denny's and Anaheim Hills for at all. There was nothing in between those two things. So, again, not a rocket surgeon, 19 years old, dumb as a post. So they go to the back of the car to get the tools out of the trunk. And I'm looking at the hood from underneath it, kind of like this, and trying to figure out how much I can adjust that latch and maybe, get a piece of log, because there's a lot of trees right here. Get a log so I can bend these things back down a little bit, and we can get this down to get back to the thing. All of a sudden I hear a scream from behind the car, and I look up and the hood hit me right in the forehead. A 3/4-ton Chevy pickup truck with 3 drunk people in it, none of them over 18, hit the back of that car at freeway speed. The only thing that saved my life at that time was that girl's scream, because it kept me from going into the engine compartment, hood closing on me, cutting my spine, and then kicking me loose onto the gravel. What I remember of that incident, that's literally all I remember. I remember the scream, and all of a sudden I'm not awake. And then I remember blue, black, green, which is sky, asphalt, trees, grass, trees, like that. Realized I was in a little ball and thought I was slowing down, so I opened up a little bit and rolled down the hill and chested a tree at, I don't have any idea how fast I was going, but it was enough to knock all of the wind out of my system and force my diaphragm to shut and then open slowly. At that time, I honestly thought I'm probably going to die of asphyxiation here, because I literally could not breathe. And it felt like it took forever for me to be able to breathe again. When I was able to breathe and kind of be a little conscious of what was going on, I realized I had gone down the hill a little bit and then into the tree. Unwrapped myself from around the tree and crawled back up the hill to the freeway, stood up in front of the car, again, not a rocket surgeon, and looked back down the freeway to where the girls were still standing, thank God. They had seen the truck coming and gotten out of the way, and I waved at them and said, "Hey, are you guys okay?" They must have thought they'd seen a ghost. I'm sure they thought I was dead, or in several different pieces. They freaked out for a second, and then they started running toward the car, and I was just like, I'm really tired, I'm just going to lay down here. And laid down on the roadway right in front of the car. Again, not a rocket surgeon. So I must have passed out, because the next thing that I really remember is some strange guy putting his jacket under my head. There was some conversation about what had occurred. I was not clear enough on the concepts of what was going on. Looked at my watch, and it was just a cheap, digital Casio. At the time, I think it was like $10. And I'm like, look, it's still running, not even a Timex. That was Timex's tagline, keeps on ticking. Well, so did my Casio, thank God. And then I decided I wanted a cigarette, so I was able to get my cigarettes out, put one in my mouth. Can't find my lighter. No one would give me fire for my cigarette. No one. There was probably 15 people there. And then they said, the ambulance is on its way. You should probably not do that. I cannot see out of the left side of my face, so every time somebody to my left would speak, I'd have to actually turn my head to see them. My ears were ringing really badly. I don't recall. I'm sure I wasn't able to follow conversations very well because I literally could not hear well. Ambulance shows up, and the driver gets out, and he goes, and he's talking to me. Driver, I don't know if it was a driver, but anyway, they get out, they come to me. He's talking to me, and he says, "Okay, I'm going to ask you first what you think is where you think you're hurt." I said, "Well, I think my nose is broken. I can't see out of the left side of my face, and I think I maybe broke some ribs because I'm having trouble breathing. It's a little painful, and I think I might have broken or dislocated my knees. I'm in a lot of pain there." So he goes, "Okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to push on you to find out where you're hurt." So he starts pushing on me, and I say, "Ow, that hurts," like at my shoulder. "Ow, that hurts in my chest. Ow, that hurts at my hips." He stops and he goes, "Listen, if it doesn't really hurt, don't say ow." I'm like, I just learned I got run over by a car. I'm hurt head to fucking toe. I don't know what you want from me. He says, well, the good thing is you're conscious and aware, so that's a plus. Do you know who the president is? And no, I'm clueless. 19, not a rocket surgeon. And I don't believe I voted in that one. Nonetheless, so they load me into the ambulance. They don't really tell me what's broken or not broken or whatever, because I'm sure they don't really know. And we get to Canyon General Hospital. Canyon General at that time was a Kaiser hospital. Oh, some bits you took off. All right. Canyon General was a Kaiser hospital. I did not have Kaiser insurance. Come to find out, I had no insurance because I was 19 and not in college, because they put the accident at midnight, which made it my 19th birthday, which pushed me out of my parents' insurance. At any rate, that was the first fun part of that. I am in the emergency room, strapped to a backboard, can't hardly move, and I'm hearing last rites. I don't really recognize or know what last rites are, but I recognize a priest talking very quietly and in a lot of Latin, because I don't understand any of it. And then I see him come around the corner, and he's full frock, right? Collar, the whole ball of wax. And come to find out that the guy that was next to me had been on a motorcycle and ate a foot peg with his dome from a telephone pole. Bad accident. Did not. I guess he was basically brain dead when they picked him up, because, those things are like that big around going through you. So I'm like, cool, that doesn't sound great for me. I have no idea how badly I'm injured, truly. My mom and dad finally show up. I don't remember telling the ambulance or anybody how to get a hold of my parents, but I must have, because my mom was at work, and this was way before cell phones. So they show up, and my mom is a basket case, just crying and totally losing it. My dad is trying to be very stoic. He doesn't want me to see how badly I'm injured. And the one thing I really remember about being in the emergency room is that being strapped to that backboard, my back really hurt. And I just wanted to lift my knees up and take some pressure off of my back. And nobody in the emergency room would let me do that, because they didn't know how much damage was done. They knew what had occurred, and they were all surprised that I was able to have any pain at all or speak. They honestly all thought I should have died in that accident. So anyway, I don't know if you can see. You probably can't, but I'll get close to the camera. There's a scar, a really small scar, from about the bridge of my nose to about there, where I have a cracked skull. The crack actually goes up this way, whereas the cut was that way. And the guy who was in emergency room doing a rotation was a plastic surgeon. I guess he was working at the hospital. That was his employer, and they have to do a rotation in the emergency room every 6 months or a year or whatever, or had to at the time. I don't know if they have to do that anymore. At any rate, my eye was open to the bone and had swollen. I should say my eyebrow was open to the bone and was swollen so much it had closed my eye, and my cheek was swollen as well. So it swelled from both sides and closed my eye. And he said, yeah, this looks pretty bad, but I'm pretty sure I can fix it. And I'm like, okay. I still haven't seen it, right? Nobody will give me a mirror or anything like that. So he spends an hour and a half just on that 3/4 inch section. 150 not disposable, but stitches that will dissolve, and then 150 outside. Those stitches will come out in like 2 weeks, I think it was. 2 stitches in each thumb, right here in where I was holding the hood, and lots of gravel and rock and tar and crap in my elbows. That was a different story. I could actually feel and spot, and the nurse, who was a male, really nice dude, he said, listen, this is going to hurt a lot. I'm going to put on some lidocaine, and I'm going to try and numb that up. but it's going to hurt like a son of a bitch when I first put it on. Feel like fire, but trust me, it goes away pretty quickly. I'm like, okay. So he puts it on. I'm like, oh, that's hot. Oh, that hurts. Come on, can you just wash it off or something? And by the time I got that out, didn't feel a thing. He grabs a scrub brush, like what you scrub your hands with, and just starts going to town on both elbows. I can't feel it. I can see him do it. I can kind of feel it in the area away from my elbow, but my elbow is basically dead to the world. And he's just scraping stuff off. I was pulling asphalt and pebbles out of my elbows for 10 years-ish. But after I met my wife, well, girlfriend at the time, yeah, I was still pulling stuff out of then, and that was 99. No, my daughter was born in 86, so, or 96. Shit, I don't remember. Anyway, yeah, so it's been a while. I found out later, while I was in there getting scrubbed up and sewn up and whatnot, and x-rays and stuff, my mom and dad were in the waiting room. They're just devastated. I'm their oldest and only their other son. We only have me and my brother. So, they're worried I'm not going to survive. They've seen me. So that gives me pause to think about how much damage I actually took. While they're in there, the 3 kids that were in that truck are in the waiting room. And they don't know each other. My mom doesn't make the connection. Neither does my dad. 'Cause I don't think they know what exactly occurred other than I got hit by a car. So the girl who was driving her father's stolen pickup truck, she stole it from him. She's not supposed to be able to drive it. Asks my mom and dad for a ride home. And my mom says, yeah, I suppose we can do that, but we're going to wait to find out what happens with my son. Why are you here? And she tells her, that little girl tells my mother, oh, we were in an accident on the freeway down by Weir Canyon. My father said he has never seen my mother move that quickly. I think she only had to cross about 8 feet of room. And he said, before he could get up out of the chair, her fingernails were touching that girl's throat. She was going to kill her. I don't have any doubt of that. My mom's a little psycho, or was. She's gone now. Nonetheless, so between my dad and 3 orderlies, they shoot my mom up so that, with whatever they shoot people up with to knock them out. And she knocks out. They take her to a room, wrap around hug me jacket, and she's in there until I'm awake in the morning, the next morning. Or actually that morning, I guess, because the accident was at midnight. So, so I'm in my hospital room up on the 4th or 5th floor. And my dad comes in and tells me what happened with my mom. And I'm like, is she okay? And he goes, yeah, your mom's fine. I said, how about the girl? She's still pretty good. She's not in the hospital. Let's put it that way. So that was a plus. And then I can't walk. My knees will not support me. It's just too painful. And I'm really afraid that I am not going to be able to walk out of the hospital. So they get me a wheelchair so I can get around a little bit. I'm there for that. I'm there in that afternoon, that same afternoon, and I hear a male voice screaming from down the hall, "Where's my medication?" I recognize that voice. That's the voice of Billy Clayton, very good friend of mine at the time. Had no idea he was in the hospital. That's how good a friend he was. Nobody reached out to any of us to let us know. At any rate, so I'm like, that sounds very much like Billy. Crawl out of my bed into my wheelchair, straighten out my gown, and roll down to where I hear him scream again. I just happen to be right next to that doorway when he screams. I look in there, and sure enough, it's Billy. So I roll in there, and he said, "Billy, what the hell are you doing here?" He goes, "What are you doing here?" I said, "Well, I was in a car accident last night. I think I'm going to be here a couple of days." And he says, "Oh, I had stomach surgery. I had polyps in my intestine and blah, blah, blah." And I look, and it's still an open wound because it has to heal from the inside out, I guess. And so he is taking Demerol and codeine. I think it's Demerol and codeine. It's Demerol and something else. Every 4 hours. He's got it timed so that he can light a Marlboro 100. This is when you could smoke in the hospital. Light a Marlboro 100, smoke the entire thing, and put it in the ashtray, and he was gone. He was asleep. And he would sleep for about 2.5 hours and wake up in pain. Billy was in there longer than I was. I happened to be in there for a total of 6 days. About day 3, I was starting to think, I'm not going to walk out of here, and they're not going to let me go easily. And I asked the doctor when he came in for rounds, I said, listen, what do I have to do to get out of this hospital? Because this is as good as it's going to get for me, I think. But I don't think there's any reason for me to stay and, add on to my bill. And he says, well, when you can pass gas or poop, we'll probably let you go the next day. So I'm like, all right. Only been 3 days. I could probably do that tomorrow. So, rolling down in my wheelchair, just trying to keep some kind of circulation because I can't walk. And finally go to the bathroom. And I'm like, I am super happy. I am pumped. I get back in my wheelchair and I'm rolling down to Billy's. Roll, roll. Dude, I pooped. Roll, roll. Dude, I pooped. Get into his room and he's like, I don't care. So, yeah, I figure you probably don't, but that's the only way I'm getting out of this prison is if I pooped. And so I pooped. And one of the nurses had heard me, caught up to me in Billy's room and said, did you flush? I said, yeah, of course I flushed. It would be disgusting if I didn't flush. She goes, well, the next time you poop, don't flush because I got to see it. I can't just take your word for it. Well, that sucks. So eventually I poop, I go home. And that was the 27th or 28th of February. I'm home for a couple of days, and my dad wants to take me and the family to the mall to get me stuff. I don't really recall why or what it was about. But he figured we could get to the mall. He could help me, not carry me, but he could help me walk into the mall, and we would rent a wheelchair, thinking there was wheelchairs to be rented. Guess what? No wheelchair rentals. There was cart rentals. I wasn't going to ride a cart. But, so we ended up going to a store and bought a cane for me. Didn't really help because both of my knees were shot and I really needed 2 canes. I really needed a wheelchair. I couldn't walk very well at all. But my dad let me hold on to him on one side and use the cane on the other. So that helped a little bit. We weren't there very long. I mean, I really could not that's not the right word. I did not have a lot of energy. I couldn't be doing things for very long before I really had to be back in bed and resting. And I was like that for about 6 months. We did exploratory on my left knee, cleaned it. Right knee didn't look as bad in x-rays. This is kind of right at the beginning of MRI, so they're stupid expensive, and so they don't really do them very often unless they really think there's something that needs to be done or needs to be seen. So yes, I'm busted. I'm broken. Actually, mostly a little bent, but not broken. I am blessed beyond understanding. I was in the hospital for 2 days before the girls who had been with the car came to see me. And they brought pictures of the car. I'm sure it was a little Toyota Corolla or a Nissan B210, something like that. Datsun B210, something like that. It was a small foreign car. The truck hit that car so hard that from the right rear taillight to the rear of the driver's side door was a straight line. The axle had been, I guess the leaf suspension had been broken. The axle was moved, so it was straight from taillight to front door. And the wheel was nowhere to be found. The car had a dent in the hood that looked just like my forehead. and the bumper had 2 dents where my knees were. The doctors think that, at the time they thought, my right knee had been hyperextended about 6 degrees, which is beyond zero. And what your knee normally does is 1 or 2 degrees beyond zero to lock back. That's as far as it goes. My left knee, they think, went 16 degrees beyond zero. Should have broken, or at least popped all the tendons in it. Did not. At the time, I was not a Christian. I believed in God, but I was not a Christian, and it would not have occurred to me at the time anyway. Again, not a brain surgeon, just a 19-year-old. And I believe now that God put me there to save those girls. I have not spoken to them since the accident, since they saw me in the hospital. But I did hear that one of them moved on and got married not too long after that. I mean, like within a couple of years. And I think the other one was already married and happy to go home to her husband. I also think that God gave me the strength to get through that, to tell this story often to a bunch of people, as many people as possible. Therefore, story time. I believe that God doesn't put you through anything you can't handle. I know that a lot of people have been through a lot of hell, and a lot of people give up. I am involved with Till Valhalla group and a couple other VA groups that do their dead best to help veterans with PTSD or veterans with injuries due to battle, to help them understand why they're still here, to help them survive the next 5 minutes, the next day, the next week. Those are my people. That's my focus when I tell this story. Because I didn't serve until after that accident. I went into the military when I was 22, 3 years later, 3+ years later. Actually, my 22nd birthday was while I was in basic training. So I served my time and nothing more, because I was too beat up. My body was too beat up to continue. I would have loved to have done it more time, but I wasn't in a position to do that at that time. And now I'm too old, and now my body is kind of reverting to that daily pain thing. Both knees. I didn't have knee replacements because at the time a knee replacement was still kind of new, and they were only lasting 10 years at the outside, and I was 19. There was no reason to give me new knees. I would have been replacing them before I was 30. So I still have my original knees. As a matter of fact, yeah, it's all original factory right now, thankfully. I believe in God the Father, God the Holy Spirit, and Jesus Christ. What you believe is up to you, and I will never tell you different. Never. I don't care. That's not true. I care what you believe, but I care more that you follow the tenets of your belief. Hardest thing in the world to do. I am not a great Christian. I admit that. But I try really hard to follow the tenets of my beliefs, of my religion. I want you all to know that I recognize how blessed I am. That one, I'm not dead. I should have died. 2, I'm still competent, aware, able to converse without too much effort. My memory is a little shaky sometimes, but hey, I have a crack in my dome. That's my excuse. What's yours? that's pretty much it. It took me about 2 years to get to a place where I could not ignore the pain, but deal with it better. My wife and daughter and I went to Disneyland with my parents. They could get free tickets, and so it was a thing, right? We could take Kristen, my daughter, when she was little, and we had a great time. Up to that time, I was literally in pain pretty much every day. It was just something I had to deal with. It was almost like something I grew up with, because I was so young, I guess, when it happened. But we were walking through Disneyland. They were all ahead of me, and I had to stop and pop my knee, my right knee. And by pop, I mean I have to plant my foot and then push my knee sideways and forward to alleviate the pain. I don't know what that does inside, but I know it pops that knee and it relieves a lot of the pain. Not all of it, but a lot of it, that I can continue doing what I'm doing. We'd been in Disneyland for, 4 or 5 hours. Have you ever walked Disneyland for 4 or 5 hours? It's a lot of walking. It's a lot more walking when you don't have a cane. My dad assumed since I didn't have a cane, I wasn't in pain. He was wrong. But he had turned around and seen me do that, and then, so much relief from that pain that I just exhaled. And he walked square up to me and slapped me in the head. And I was like, I'm in a lot of pain. That was the wrong thing to do. And he said, well, if you fart, you don't have to tell everybody around you. And I didn't. Popped my knee. And he looked like he was still angry. So I grabbed him and pulled him in close so he can't hit me again. And tell him, listen, I've been in pain every day since that accident. Every day I'm in pain. I either have a headache, or my hands hurt, or my knees hurt, or my back hurts, or all of them at the same time. But I'm never not in pain. That didn't have anything to do with gas. It had to do with pain. And you need to learn that. And you need to learn not to hit me again. I'm a grown-ass man with children. You don't treat me that way anymore. And I let him go. And he looked at me like he was still a little bit angry, but he turned around and walked away. And we just joined the group. So we continued our day, and he left me alone. I popped my knees, both my knees, like 3 more times that afternoon. My daughter didn't know about that pain, probably till she was an adult. I mean, it was just, Dad's weird. My wife knew about that pain pretty much from the day we met. I think she was surprised I joined the military or funnier than that, probably more surprised that they accepted me with that pain, with those problems. But I don't think I told them everything. I certainly didn't tell them about my back. So that's my story. Hope you enjoyed it. I don't know what else to tell you. Like I said, now I'm still up and about, able to walk. I walk 10,000 steps a day here just at my site. And I average probably around 13,000 a day when I can walk, when it's not raining like a son of a gun. Today is very cloudy. Looks like it might rain. It's kind of scheduled to rain today or tomorrow. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, that's how I get around. That's how I survive it. That's how I help others to survive it, is storytelling. I don't really know any other way. I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist. I never took those classes because I honestly didn't care. People who take those classes, like in junior college and beginning of university, are usually just trying to figure out what's going on in their own dome, and I didn't want to know. I didn't care to know. I know I'm in pain. I know how to get rid of that pain, at least in my head, and I'm surviving. And God has got his hand on my shoulder. That's the only thing I can lean on, and I count on it every day. I want you to be able to count on those things as well. I think those things are important. I believe that is what kept me alive this long. Because honestly, for the first 3 years, I didn't want to deal with his pain. I was ready to go. And I don't know what turned me around other than God. I know that at this point in my life, God has saved me from that accident. He's saved me from myself. He saved me from others so that I could be here to tell this story to you. It's up to you how you interpret this story. It's up to you how you interpret religion or your religion. But if you follow the tenets of your religion, be it Buddhist, Hindu, Muslim, Jewish, Catholic, for the most part, you'll probably be straight and narrow. And you'll be doing just fine. Recognize that you're not perfect, because God recognizes it. Trust me on that one. If he thought I was perfect, or if he didn't think I was perfect, and that was his only criteria, you must be perfect, he wouldn't have saved me from that accident. Why would he? I'm lucky that I don't have survivor guilt because no one else passed. No one else was injured. As a matter of fact, one of the girls that was standing in the back of the car was wearing cork heels, like that, 2 or 3 inches, 3 inches. And a piece of the taillight lens went right through the back of one of their cork heels. Would have cut her tendon. Would have cut her Achilles tendon if she'd been wearing flats. I don't know what that says about life. I know what I think that says about God. And I've told you. If you have any questions, or you need an ear, or you want some help, please don't hesitate to leave a message. Or if you are suicidal, please don't. That's what I'm going to say to you first. Because when you die, your pain ends. But the pain of the people that love you continues on. And I know that sounds a little cliche, because it pretty much is. But it's true. There are cliches because they are truisms. So, don't. But if you are really having issues, please don't hesitate to reach out to someone. Doesn't have to be me. God knows I reach out to people I don't know. Get a therapist, or call the 800 suicide line. I will put it in the description so that you can just tag it. I mean, you can just tap on it. All right? Try before you quit. I know everybody says, dude, I just can't handle it anymore. I don't know what's going on. Then you need to be able to puke that up to somebody, because that's what I had to do. I needed to puke that up to somebody. Pain was one thing, but just trying to deal with my everyday was something completely different, and I didn't even realize it at the time. Sorry, my alarm's going off. This is a long one, but I hope that you get something out of it, even if it's just laughing at me. All right? You guys have a great day. I really do appreciate you. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you feel led that way. Live long, fight hard, win the day. See ya.